Hello, and thank you for joining us on Classic Vinyl Podcast. And this is the podcast where we listen to and review classic albums and songs from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. I am one of your hosts, Justin, and I'm once again joined by my other host, Tyler.
And I am so privileged to be allowed into your house one more time. I keep thinking every week that, well, this is going to be the time. He's going to turn me away, but no, I keep coming in.
I haven't found anyone yet, to replace you, but once that happens, we'll see.
Send your audition tapes to,
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to do Three Dog Night and their hit song, One. Let me give you a tiny bit of history about the band Three Dog Night. So Three Dog Night's an American rock band formed in Los Angeles, California in 1967. They were formed of Chuck Negron, Danny Hutton, and Corey Wells. Those were the three men that originally formed the group, and they were kind of interesting because all three men were vocalists. So it was a three-vocalist group, and they were initially called the band Redwood was the name of the band, and they actually worked with the Beach Boys, mainly on the Beach Boys album Wild Honey, but it didn't really work out. The band changed their name to Three Dog Night in 1968 after Danny Hutton's girlfriend, June Fairchild, suggested the name after reading a magazine article about Aboriginal Australians that would spend cold nights sleeping with dingo dogs. And of course, on cold nights, you slept with a dingo dog. If it was a colder night, you'd sleep with two. And on the coldest nights, you slept with three.
I see. So this is their thermometer.
That story of how the band got named is highly disputed, and it's probably not true, but it really sounds good, and I like the idea of that one, so we'll stick with that. But the band soon hired a backing group consisting of Ron Morgan on guitar, who was actually replaced shortly after that, in fact, before the first album came out, by Michael Alsop on guitar, Floyd Sneed on drums, Joe Shermy on bass, and Jimmy Greenspoon on keyboards. Now, Danny Hutton is the only original member still with the band to this day. This band has had a lot of lineup changes, a lot over the years. They've actually had 24 different members in the band and several lineup changes over the years. But as far as sales, they're not too shabby. This band sold over 50 million albums worldwide. All in all, they've released 12 studio albums, 4 live albums, 7 compilation albums, and 26 singles in the history of the band. Now in the US, 9 of those albums hit the top 100. 6 of them actually made the top 25, and in 1972, their album Seven Separate Fools was their highest charting album they ever had, and it hit number 6 on the Billboard charts. Of course, in Canada, they were pretty popular too, funny enough. They actually had 8 albums in the top 25, and their third album, It Ain't Easy, being their top charting at number 5. Now, in 1969, they did have a live album called Captured Live at the Forum. It also hit number 6 in the U.S., number 4 in Canada. Total of 2 platinum albums by the band and 14 gold albums, all in all. So not too shabby.
Yeah, I'll say.
So they didn't have very much success in the U.K., funny enough, but they did have their 1970 song, Mama Told Me Not to Come, which is a pretty popular song. It actually did hit number 3 in the UK, so they did have a little popularity there, but not much.
It's kind of a drug-themed song, isn't it?
A little bit, kind of being at a party,
Yeah,
drinking and drugging, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and I saw Quadrophenia, so I know about the drugs at the parties.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Who.
Well, I knew that, but I was trying to find the correlation between the two.
Drug-fueled parties. Mama told me not to come.
I guess that makes sense.
The blues, man.
So as far as singles, in the U.S., they had 21 of their singles hit the top 100, 18 in the top 25, and they had 3 number 1 hits. Mama Told Me Not to Come, which we're talking about, Joy to the World, and Black and White. Now in Canada, the singles, they had 21, also in the top 100 there, 20 of them in the top 25, and they had 2 number 1 hits, Joy to the World and Black and White. So their popularity, a lot of times we see these different songs do really well in Canada or the UK and not the US or vice versa, but pretty similar there.
Yeah, it's a little odd to me how the Canadians get turned on to certain songs just a little more than... There's something that must have a little bit of bacon or maple syrup flavor to it, right?
There you go, offending our Canadian listeners.
Our neighbors to the north. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You are not stereotypes. We love you.
But with all the popularity of this band through early to late 70s and selling over 50 million records, this is another band that I have to say, why in the hell are they not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
They're not?
They are not.
Well, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you guys ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
Well, I think they should be, because there's a lot of bands that are going to make it eventually anyways. Why not put them in while the members are still alive, for God's sakes?
And I mean, ask anybody. Anybody's heard the band name Three Dog Night.
Well, and I even think they're kind of a band. We talk about this all the time. Bands, sometimes their popularity doesn't carry over. I think this is one of those rare bands that the popularity of their songs have carried over. I might have to disagree with you a little in saying that I think a lot of people know a lot of their songs. Joy to the World, one that we're doing today, Mama Told Me Not to Come. Those are all very popular songs.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if a lot of casual listeners would know, hey, that's Three Dog Night.
They might not know the song by the band name, but they know the band name Three Dog Night. It's a very common band name, right?
Yeah, it just shows what a sham the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, and
they can do better.
Yeah. So should we get to the song review?
Let's do it.
And now it's time for the song review.
Okay, so today we're doing Three Dog Night and their hit song One. Tyler, we listened to this a couple times today. What is your history with Three Dog Night? And I would say more in particular with this song.
So I've heard this song a ton. This song gets lots of radio play. This is one of your quintessential lonely person songs. Blues isn't the word for it, but it's a melancholy song, right?
It is melancholy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so this does get a lot of radio play on soft rock stations, classic rock stations. It gets a lot of radio play.
I think this song's also been kind of a staple in a lot of commercials, movies, TV, things like that.
Oh, especially anything that wants to be associated with the one, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let me give you a little history on the song. So this song was actually originally written and released by Harry Nilsson in March of 1968. The Three Dog Night version was released on April 5th of 1969. So it was recorded at American Recording Studio in Studio City, California. It was produced by Gabriel Meckler. He has produced a lot of famous bands: Steppenwolf, Janis Joplin, Etta James, on and on and on.
Some big names.
And, you know, I always said Three Dog Night had the luxury of having three vocalists in the band, but this one, the lead vocals are by Chuck Negron. So this was originally on Three Dog Night's first album that was titled One. It was released as the second single off the album, and it was actually the first hit for this band. So the B-side was a song called Chest Fever, which that's kind of an interesting name for a song, Chest Fever. The album version of this song is just barely over 3 minutes long, and the single version was cut down to just barely under 3 minutes long. It's like an 11-second difference. I'm not quite sure what they cut. We probably should have listened to them back to back to see if we could tell, but
those 11 seconds were just too much.
yeah, I think what they really did cut was the fade out on the end, because I don't think it fades out on the album version where it kind of just ends.
It's a held chord at the end.
Yeah, and I think it's just more of an abrupt ending on the single version. So this song reached number 5 in the U.S. and number 4 in Canada. So like we said, the Canadians like this one better. The single is certified gold by the RIAA in the U.S. with over 1 million copies of the single sold. This is the first of 7 gold singles by the band.
Really?
So they had a string of hits, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it. I mean, when you talked about some of the hits that these guys have, they're a well-known band. Well,
yeah.
Their songs are well-known.
Definitely. There's a lot of things about this song, what it's about, who knows. And this is another perfect example. Is this a double entendre song, you know? And I think almost quadruple entendre could be the word for a lot of different music. I mean, you take your meaning out of it, but it has said that this is about the loneliness of a single life, and possibly even the loneliness of a coupled life, you know, or even the loneliness of being a solo artist, as well as Nilsson was when he wrote the song, because he had spoken about how it was tough to be a solo artist and not in a band with all the other people to support you. So possibly it's about that too. Or possibly it's about what you said it's about while we were listening to it. So, and you'll have to get into that. But
oh, shall I?
Yeah, Harry Nilsson supposedly wrote the rhythm of the song from hearing a telephone busy signal. You know how you hear that piano at the right, how it starts, you know, just the constant.
It does have that steady rhythm.
That carries throughout the song with the piano, which I actually really enjoy.
Yeah, the fact that it's not noticeable until you point it out, but when you do listen for it, it's like, okay, this is camouflaged under the cloak of piano music because it doesn't sound as harsh on your ears when it's a piano.
Well, yeah, it's almost like this song's got its own built-in click track, so it works. So after listening to Three Dog Night, Tyler, one, with the purpose of reviewing it, what are your thoughts on this song?
So this song, let's see, how do I describe the music that opens it? It is like that busy signal with the piano, and then the lyrics come in after the first measure with that very well-known first line of "one is the loneliest number that you'll ever do," which I found to be a little strange way to phrase it. This is a poetic song, and he's writing something very poetically.
Yeah, you would think one is the loneliest number that you'll ever find.
Or
But
you'll ever see, or...
Yeah, when you say that you'll ever do...
What else do we say when we're doing something?
Yeah, and your opinion was this is about a rock star's life, and he's only getting one woman at the time.
Yeah.
And that's lonely.
Yeah, so are they talking about the number of sexual partners that you're with? Well, one's the loneliest if you're just by yourself.
But I guess if you put it in perspective of the writer Harry Nilsson and him being a solo artist, then it kind of does make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, and put in that context with it, yeah, if you have like a duo like Simon and Garfunkel, what happens when Paul Simon and, is it Gene Garfunkel? Art Garfunkel. Wow, Ty, way to go. Art Garfunkel.
I mean, nobody really cares. It's Garfunkel. Everybody knew Paul Simon.
Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens when there's a disagreement? Well, obviously, Paul Simon's right.
Yeah. There's probably a disagreement because he called him, what did he call him?
I called him Gene.
Gene yeah.
Garfunkel.
Paul Simon and Gene Garfunkel.
Yeah, but this song is, it's a real, like I said, melancholy song. There's a sadness to it. There's that loneliness. It really encapsulates that feeling that he's singing about. He says, one's the loneliest number, two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number since the number one. And then he says, yes, and I realize this is all a song about short words. I have no idea where I was going with that or where he was going with that. That's what he sings about. He sings about some real, just a few letters in the word, and that's where it goes. This song has not been one of my favorites. I do have a better appreciation for this song, having listened to it more actively and trying to interpret it and critique it. So what are your thoughts about the Three Dog Night 1?
I have always enjoyed Three Dog Night. I haven't really got into a lot of their albums deeply. I've listened to them all once or twice, but I don't visit them that often, and I really should, but I've got so much that I like to listen to. It's hard for me to discover new old music, I guess. But one has always been one of my favorite songs of theirs. I really enjoy the piano in this, that just constant. I don't know. I like how it goes through, and I think the vocalness by Chuck Negrana is perfect. And that's one thing I wasn't in the know of as a casual Three Dog Night fan, that they had three lead vocalists. I wasn't aware of that. I guess I always kind of thought it was the same guy. But the guitar in this is good. Right before the section where he says it's just no good anymore since you've gone away, then you kind of have a build up of the drum and guitar. It's a build, and I really enjoy that, the way it brings. I think you said it well, is it's a very lonely and sad song, but that build kind of adds to it and does something for it. I think the guitar is used perfectly throughout. I don't think it has any music put into it or any instruments. We've talked about a lot of things where they use horns and things like that kind of destroy them. I think this is minimalist enough that it's perfect, and it keeps that lonely feeling to it.
And once again, the piano can be used well.
Yes, it can. It's just not overwhelming, and it's perfect in this, And the bass is strong and thick in this song. And the one thing I told you is right at the end when Chuck Negron has that falsetto, I think he does an amazing job with that. This is a really good song. It is played quite frequently. You do hear it on commercials, TV, movies, and things like that. Maybe a little overplayed for someone like me that constantly is visiting classic radio or whatever you want to call it, whether it's on Spotify, on my own vinyl, or on Sirius XM or whatever it is. I hear it a lot, but it's still one of my favorite songs of theirs.
We hear it a lot because it is very popular with media and commercials.
Decent song. So do you want to get the song rating?
Let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, if this is your first time listening, our rating system's pretty simple, from 0 to 10, 10 being the best, and I put this one at a 6. Before doing this episode, I probably would have given it below 5, but because I didn't really like it. But now that I've listened to it and I've really seen that it captures that loneliness, or it accomplished very well what it set out to do, that really bumped it up to a positive for me. So I put it at a 6, and I bring it down to a 6 because it does have a ton of overplay. But then again, I think I'm being unfair to the song because it gets a lot of overplay because it's such a good song. It's got an excellent beat to it. It's got really nice rhythm. I mean, if you can say that the rhythm of a busy tone on a phone is good rhythm, but it's not noticeable because it's the piano and it uses the piano so nicely. And the piano is such a perfect instrument for loneliness. It's got this haunting feeling to it that just really makes it so melancholy. So I stick with the 6. Where do you put this one, Justin?
You know, I think it's funny because sometimes we do rate songs higher or lower depending on how often we hear them. And we probably shouldn't because it's not really fair. But, you know, we're giving our opinions of the song. Mm-hmm. And we by no means are musical experts. We're just saying, okay, what does our ear like to hear? And so we're wrong to some people and we're right to others. I rate this song a 7. I think it's a very strong song. I do kind of stick with you though on it being overplayed a little bit, and probably if I didn't listen to classic rock radio in all forms here and there, I probably wouldn't hear it as much, obviously, but a really good song nonetheless. Really good from Three Dog Night.
I think it's exactly what it is used for, and that is an excellent song for repetitious play on classic rock radio stations. It's real easy on the ears, and that's why they play it so much. That just gives me a little bit of ear burn.
Well, that's Three Dog Night and their first hit song, One. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or have a song you would like us to rate, listen to and rate, give our honest, uneducated feedback on, we'd certainly like to send them to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And we really do appreciate you listening because we know there's a lot of music podcasts out there to listen to. So if you're listening to us, it's appreciated more than you know.
Certainly is.
Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.